Good morning, students. Today's session is on mainly cost classifications. In previous session, we discussed about limitations of cost accounting and as well as meaning and steps of installation of cost system. The learning objective of this session is to understand important classifications of cost accounting. After completion of this session, you may be able to understand the different classifications of cost accounting. In that respect, we start this before knowing the cost classification. We need to start a concept of cost here. Some cost concepts which are used in cost accounting are, first one is cost and the expenses. Here, what is cost? The cost is an amount of expenditure which is incurred on or attributable to a given thing, or ascertain the cost of given thing is called as a cost here. What exactly the amount we are going to incur on, that is what we will call it as exactly the cost. And what exactly the mean of expenses then? Here, expenses is an amount which have been incurred or applied against revenue of accounting period in accordance with the matching principle. For example, cost of goods sold. It is called as an expense, the amount which we have been incurred against the revenue which we are expecting. That is what we will call it as expense. Then the another terminology, that is loss. Loss is lost cost when no benefit is received from the cost which we incurred, or it becomes definite that no benefit will accrue, that the cost become a lost cost, which is called we will as loss. Then we have the terminology of cost center. Cost center, it may be a location, person, or an item of equipment for which cost may be ascertained and used for the purpose of cost control. Here, cost center, it might be a location, person, or an item of equipment for which cost may be ascertained and used for the purpose of cost control is called as a cost center. We do come across there are different cost centers that might be a location, person, or an item of equipment. As I already told you, there are three types of cost centers. There are three types of cost centers. In that, we do come across, first one is production cost center. Here, production cost center, it is nothing but an which is engaged in the production of goods. For example, machine shops, that is called as a production cost center. Production cost center is one which production activity is carried, where the raw materials are converted into finished good. That is what we will call it as production cost center. Then the other one we have the service cost center. Here, service cost center is subsidiary to production cost center that will render the service. Only indirect expenses are incurred in these cost centers. For example, indirect expenses which may, for example, can be a canteen or internal transport of an organization. Service cost center is one which is render only the services to the other cost center. That is what we will call it as service cost center. Then we have the another one, mixed cost center. Here, mixed cost center is a center where, or a location where we are engaged in the both the production and service activities. For example, carpentry shop, which will manufacturing the furniture as well as undertaking the repairs work. That is what we will call it as a combination of production cost and as well as a service cost. That is what we will call it as mixed cost center. In cost center, we do come across personal cost center. Here, a personal cost center which is consist of persons, groups of persons is called as an personal cost center. Impersonal cost center. Impersonal cost center which is consist of location, as already told that the meaning of cost center itself is called as an impersonal cost center. After that, we have the another terminology, that is cost unit. A cost unit is a unit of product or a service or a time in relation to which cost may be ascertained or expressed. Here, cost unit is nothing but a unit of product or a service or time in relation to which cost may be ascertained or expressed. That is what we will call it as cost unit. There are two types of cost units. In that, first we have the single cost unit. It is a single unit of cost. For example, cost per ton, cost per meter, per kilogram, etc. like that. That is what we will call it as single cost unit. Then we have the another one, composite cost. Composite cost is nothing but a two or more simple cost units. It is used where the simple cost is not possible to ascertain the cost. That is what we will call it as composite cost. For example, per passenger per kilometer. There are two units. There are two parameters we need to consider, per passenger per kilometer and per 1,000 bricks. These are the some examples of cost unit. Then we need to move towards to the exact topic session that is cost classifications. Here, cost classifications will be understood by the different parameters on the basis of the different parameters. Those were on the basis of nature or element, on the basis of function, on the basis of variability, on the basis of controllability, on the basis of normality, and on the basis of decision making. That is according to the purpose of managerial decisions. We need to understand what exactly the important classifications of the classifications of costing. On the basis, okay, first we move towards one by one. On the basis of nature or element, cost can be divided into or classified into again three, that is three categories, that is material, labor and expenses. Material, labor and expenses. Here material may be again, might be a direct material or indirect material which is directly used in conversion of raw material into the finished good. Those will called as a direct material, and indirect materials are those which will support you to the direct material. For example, wood used in making the furniture is called a direct material. If you want to make a furniture, a complete furniture, usable furniture, for that we need to use nails, nuts to make the such gum. Such furniture are called as indirect material. Again, we have the another one, basis on the nature, we have the another classification like labor. Labor is a force or a work which we need. Without the interference of the labor, we can't complete the work like that. In that, we have again, we have direct labor and indirect labor. Here, direct labor is nothing but a time spent by a worker at the factory is called a direct labor. What exactly the time the workers or the employees of an organization were involved in conversion of raw material into a finished good. At that duration is called as a direct labor. Then indirect labor. Indirect labor like helpers, supervisors, foremen are all come under indirect labor. Then we have the another one, that is expenses. Expenses, here again we do have another two classifications under categories under expenses. We do find direct expenses and indirect expenses. Here direct expenses are like inward carriage, freight charges, patent, royalty, etc. Those are called direct expenses. And then again the indirect expenses like heat, light, maintenance and etc. are called the indirect expenses. These are all the some important cost classifications on the basis of nature or element. Then we need to move towards to the cost classification on the basis of functions. On the basis of functions, we do come across again the classification of here the production or manufacturing cost, again administration cost, selling cost, distribution cost and research and development cost. Under production cost, here under production cost we need to know that here all the direct and indirect cost incurred in the production of the goods and services or goods and services of a company are called as production cost. Administration cost are, these are official cost or cost of management activities of an organization like electricity, stationery and salary of office employees and etc. Then we have the another one, selling cost. Selling cost is an amount which is incurred in promoting the goods and services, sales. Promoting the sales and retaining the customer is the main motto of every company. In that respect, what are all the activities they are involving in promoting the company's goods and services? Those were called as the selling cost. For example, salesman commission, advertisement expenses and so on. Then we have distribution cost. Here distribution cost is a cost which is incurred for making the goods or the services available to the customer. It is a cost where we need to take care to transfer the goods from manufacturing unit to the ultimate customer. That is, all the expenses will come under this distribution cost. And finally we have the research and development cost. It is the first cost. On the basis of that only, on the basis of research for new and innovative products, based on that only company need to plan for production of new innovative products to the customer. That is, that expenses is called as an research and development cost. Then we need to move towards to the another classification on the basis of variability. On the basis of variability, we do come across on the basis of behavior, we can say it as on the basis of variability or a behavior, we can classify the cost into three, that is fixed cost, variable cost and semi-fixed or semi-variable cost here. Here, fixed cost is a cost which remains unaffected by the change in the output. That is, for example, rent of the plant of an organization. Then we have another one, the variable cost, the cost which varies with the volume of output. That is what we will call variable cost. For example, wage of a labor or salary of employees, it may go change by year. Then we have semi-fixed and semi-variable cost. Semi-fixed or semi-variable cost are costs which are partly fixed and partly variable. For example, telephone expenses. According to the base of usage, we are going to pay the minimum amount of telephone expenses, and if we used the telephone much, on the basis of that usage only, we are going to pay the total charges of telephone. Then we need to move towards to the on the basis of controllability. On the basis of controllability, again the cost can be classified into controllable cost and uncontrollable cost. Here, uncontrollable cost can be influenced by the action of the management. For example, this cost which can be influenced by the action of specific members of the management. For example, direct material. Then uncontrollable. Here, uncontrollable cost is a cost which cannot be influenced by the action of the management. That is called as a rent. For example, rent of the plant. Then the another classification which is mainly based on normality. Normality, or we can normality basis, it is again classified as normal cost and abnormal cost. Here, normal cost is incurred for attaining the normal output. That is what we will call it as normal cost, whereas abnormal cost is incurred for special circumstances. It is not a routine cost. That is, which is not routine cost is called as an abnormal cost, which is a routine cost, that is called as a normal cost. Then we have the another classification that is mainly based on the purpose of managerial decision, that is decision making. The cost can be classified according to the decision making. In that respect, we do come across the relevant cost, marginal cost, incremental cost, and opportunity cost. In that respect, we here relevant cost is a cost which are considered while decision making a relevant cost. For example, direct material, which is mainly related to an direct material, that is what we will call as relevant cost. Marginal cost. Marginal cost is cost which is incurred for producing one extra unit. That is what we will call it as a marginal cost. Here, a change in the total cost when an output is increased by 1 unit. That is what we will call it as marginal cost. Marginal cost is a cost which is incurred for producing one extra unit. What is the expense we are going to incur for producing the one extra unit? That is what we will call it as marginal cost. Then we have the another one, incremental cost. Incremental cost is an extra cost that a company incurs if the manufacturers an additional quantity of unit can be produced, and that time we are going to get incremental cost here. Then we have the another one, the opportunity cost. Here, opportunity cost, it is the value of the benefit sacrificed in favor of an alternative course of action. That is what we will call it as opportunity cost. It is the maximum possible earning that might have been earned if the productive capacity or the service had been put to some alternative use. For example, we can say that the net selling price, rental value or transfer value which could be obtained at the point of time if a particular asset or a group of assets were to be sold. That is what we will call it as opportunity cost here. These are all some important cost classifications where we need to know the meaning. On the basis of that only we are going to solve the or maintain the techniques which were very important to know about in next further units. These are all some assessment or assignment or to solve some questions here, that is MCQs. When no benefit is received from the cost incurred, it is called as what? Cost or expense or a loss or revenue. Which is the option? It is called as no benefit is called as a loss. On the basis of nature or an element, cost can be classified as fixed, variable and semi-variable, or the material, labor or expenses, Whether is it controllable or uncontrollable and mixed, or none of the above. Which is the answer? Yeah, it is second one, that is material, labor and expenses. Then the other one, cost incurred for making the goods or services available to the customer. Whether is it administration cost, production cost, distribution cost or selling cost. Yes, it is called distribution cost. The other question, cost which varies with the volume of output is called as fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost or administrative cost. It is called as variable cost. The other question, a change in the total cost when an output is increased by 1 unit is called marginal cost or relevant cost or incremental cost or a variable cost. It is a marginal cost. These are the some references. You may go through with this. Okay, this is the completion of 5th session, which is mainly dealing with the classifications of cost. Okay, have a nice day. We do meet in the next session.